processes, and different definitions. Then we will discuss series of technological innovation, which will be something very interesting for you guys to know, and you can even have some extra reading if you like over the internet, because they are very interesting theories. Then we have the national systems of innovation and how important it is for how important the innovation is for a country as a whole, and not only companies and different organizations. I mean, it's about the governments and the countries and how they approach basically innovation. Then we will discuss the very important topic of patents and other intellectual properties, the IP rights, and what is a patentable invention and patent rights in practice. It will somehow maybe complete the session which we discussed about the legal issues and the business law. Then we will cover the technology transfer and technology and globalization, which, if you recall from the first day, whatever topic we discussed, we somehow discussed the effects of that specific topic on the globalization and internationalization process. And finally, the conclusion. As per the concepts and processes, first we're going to know what is the difference between innovation and invention. It's something that we have heard both terminologies. However, we may get confused between the two terms as they are two separate things. Innovation, it covers the activities which seek improvements and new ways of doing things. So innovation, it's not like you are actually producing a new product or you are inventing something new. Whereas it's something that basically you are making your usual processes more effective. You are making it shorter, and you are speeding up your processes. So it's something that you are innovating. You're bringing up something new, but you're not inventing anything. Whereas in the case of invention, it's when a new product and a process, it's developed, and it's the making of qualitative leap forward from existing technology. So you are taking a new step further in as compared to the existing technology. You are inventing something. For example, if let's say if at the moment you have the let's say telephone communications and you have the normal landline telephones, and then you invent the mobile phone technology and the mobile technology, that's an invention. Already the telephone was there, but you are producing a new product. You're introducing something new, which is the mobile phone, and it will be a leap forward from the existing technology, which is just the normal telephone communication. Then we have a term of technology, which we use very often, which is the methodical application of scientific knowledge to practical purposes. So basically, you are converting science into practice. And you are making science more practical. You are making science useful to the practical purposes. And scientific knowledge plays a crucial role in technological invention, which we will see this on the next slide, which will be a diagram which will discuss this more clearly, and it's more clear. Companies invest in research and development, or R&D, to extend the knowledge and generate new products and applications. If you remember in the first sessions, we said that R&D, although you are spending money on a department which may not bring you cash from outside, it's not like your sales department, whereas the activities are for bringing in money into the company. In fact, R&D may be the most expensive part of a company in terms of investment, and you have to invest lots of money. And that's why many people argue that the money that you spend on R&D, it's not expensive, it's investment, because you will gain from it in the long run. And companies, or in better words, large organizations with effective R&D departments, they are the most successful ones. And they are the ones who will maintain to sustain themselves, who are able to sustain themselves in the competition. The innovation process, whereas we discussed in the previous slide, and I said that the scientific role plays a crucial role in technological innovation, and it's converting the scientific knowledge into practical purpose. We will see it in this slide, where you have it all starts from biology, chemistry, and physics, which is somehow the mother of all sciences. From these three sciences is where you get the scientific discovery. You come up with a scientific discovery. Scientific discovery will take you to either applied research or technical application, which in terms of our discussion, maybe more it's technical applications. Both of these concepts, it will lead to prototypes, it will lead to samples, it will lead to demo products where you develop it and you test it. Once you test it, it will go down to intellectual property rights. So now you want to make sure that this new product which you have invented, either through applied research or technical application, it's basically insured and it's maintained under your name, and other people cannot copy it from you. So you go through the intellectual property rights either through copyright or patentable inventions. Copyright will be like if you're writing a book or software products or things like that, whereas patentable inventions, it's for products and processes. And finally, through this, once you have done all these legal, you have gone through all these legal steps, and your product is it's registered under your name, and you are assured of that, then you will be transferring your goods to your customers. From your customers, you will get the feedback and go back to the technical application to come up with something new. I will give you the example of, let's say, for example, iPhones. First, we had the iPhone, let's say, for example, 4. Then after iPhone 4, once the intellectual property was basically registered under the name of Apple, and it's something that everyone knows that it's for Apple, and no one has the right to copy it, such as the problem which I think most of you have heard, that the legal issue which was there between Apple and Samsung, that Apple was saying that some applications were copied from Samsung. It was a result of that step. This was the area where the problem came up. And finally, when the iPhone 4 was delivered to the consumers, there were some feedbacks. Like, for example, some people, let's say, said that okay, the operating system is slow, or the quality of the battery is not good, or let's say the resolution and the quality of display is not good. So they make these changes, and they once these changes are studied and they are made and they are applied, the process will go back to the technical application and it will repeat in a loop. So that's why I said it's very interesting, because it's something that we all know of, but it's just seeing it in another aspect. Mr. Arak, please mute your microphone. Okay, then we will move on to the theories of technological innovations, which we discussed. First, we will discuss the Schumpeter's theory of industrial waves. Before that, let's see who the Schumpeter was. I had found a very interesting topic. If you just give me 1 second. Okay, to look at this very briefly, the Schumpeter's theory of industrial waves, it's about the historical waves based on technological innovations which affect the organizations and societies. They viewed the changes taking place with capitalism as creative destruction. New products, new methods, and new organizations emerge as old ones die. I will explain this more briefly, and it will be more understandable. Joseph Schumpeter, he was an Austrian-American economist who was even the finance minister in Austria for a short while. And he had different, let's say, approaches and theories, one of which was the one which we just discussed right now. And, sorry, His theory of industrial waves, if we just look at it, I'm looking for the article which I had just read. It was something very interesting, and I want to read it from that. Um, okay. Um, I found it. It's the Schumpeter's identified. I'm just going to read this from the article. It's the Schumpeter's identified innovation as the critical dimension of economic change. So basically, he linked the innovation to the economic change that is happening in the society. He argued that the economic change revolves around innovation, entrepreneurial activities, and market power. He sought to prove that innovation originated market power could provide better results than the invisible hand and price competition. So what he was saying is that this is something which we also may argue in terms of running a business. Like if you decide to run a business, you want to make sure that you come up with something new. And you are sure that if you have some innovation, you will succeed to get the market. So basically what he was saying is that if your market power is based on innovation, then you have better results than compared to, like, let's say price competing. Like for example, let's give the example of mobile phones itself. Okay, so mobile phones, until before the smartphones emerged, if you remember, like all the telephones, they were just a mobile phone, a normal mobile phone. Then Samsung came with the color display. So for the first time, the first mobile was produced with color display. So it was something innovative. It was something new. So for some time, Samsung was having more sales until like Nokia and other companies, they also managed to produce this color display. Then after that, again, Samsung came up with the new concept of adding a camera to the telephone. It was something new that you would have a camera on your mobile phone. So again, before the other competitors would come up with that approach, Samsung was the only mobile phone manufacturer who had the camera on its mobile phone. So it's saying that when you have something new, it's when you are going through innovation, you will get the good results. And he continues and he says that technological innovation often creates temporary monopoly. This is what I said. So for some time, you will be the only one who has that specific, like let's say, approach of producing some specific product, until of course your competitors will come in. So this will allow the abnormal profits. Abnormal profits meaning that since you are the only one, you don't have competition. You can even set a higher price because the people have no other option. So if they want a telephone with a camera, they are forced to buy it from Samsung because, for example, at that time, Nokia and other competitors, they did not have such option. So you were the only one. And this abnormal profit would soon be competed away by the rivals and the imitators. He said that these temporary monopolies were necessary to provide the incentive necessary for the firms to develop new products and serve processes. This refers back to the previous slide where I said that the research and development and the R&D, it's something that some people look at it as a cost to a company, whereas many believe that it's not a cost, it's an investment to the company. So the R&D will do all the research to see how they can come up with the innovation. That innovation will lead to this abnormal profits that you can make, of course, for a limited time, until your competitors will also copy you and they will also have the same approach as well. The next one will be the product life cycle and the innovation. I'm sure that many of you have you remember the concept of the life cycle and the product life cycle theory, because it's like it has a diagram and it has a chart, which I'm not going to get into the details of that. I mean to the chart itself. I'm just going to discuss the different parts of that diagram. Uh, it's like a bell-shaped diagram, where it starts from the introduction, it goes to the growth, and it reaches the maturity, and finally it declines. Okay. The explanation to this is that in this theory believes that early success of a new product depends on a large home market which bears the cost of the necessary R&D. So it's saying that this theory believes that if you want to cover up the expenses which you have made and the investment you have made on the research and development section of your organization, this will only be covered if you manage to satisfy a large home market. And in your introduction stage, if you manage to cover that expense, then you can think of bringing in more profit. When the product becomes more standardized, or in other words, saturated, production moves to the less advanced and cheaper locations linked to the globalization of products. So let's discuss the different parts of this diagram. First, we have the introduction. It's where the new product is introduced for meeting the local needs, and the new products are first exported to similar countries. So countries with a similar taste. Why? Because it's just the introduction. It's just the beginning of introducing your new product. So you may not have that flexibility to make all those modifications required for different markets. So you will start with a market with similar taste. So you will export it to similar countries with similar needs, preferences, and incomes. And once you're done with this step, this diagram will move towards the growth. It's where the copy of the product is produced elsewhere and introduced in the home country to capture the growth in the home market. So in the introduction stage, you still have no competition. No one has still copied you. It's only you who are doing this, and you're exporting it. Now at the level of growth, a company has started to copy a product similar to yours in the home country, not in the host countries yet. They did not export it yet, to capture the growth in the home market. So first, the emphasis of your rival and your competitor will be to compete with you in the home market. This moves the production to other countries. Then they will think of, okay, let's move to other countries as well, usually on the basis of cost production. Then you have the maturity stage, where the industry contracts and concentrates. The lowest cost producer wins. Now at this stage, you cannot say that, okay, I was the pioneer. I was the first one who came up with this innovation. For example, if you are the Samsung company, in the introduction stage, you can just put a crazy price on your product, and you are still able to make that profit because you're a monopoly and you can just sell as much as you want. When you move towards the growth stage, basically you will have to somehow limit your like, let's say, putting the high prices on your products. You have to reduce your prices until you reach the maturity, whereas you have to be very careful and sometimes even put up a price lower than other competitors. Why? Because they are competing just like you. And in order to sustain, you need to reduce your price. And finally, this will reach to a saturation and eventually to a decline. And when it's a decline, it means that the product will usually move to the lowest, basically least advanced countries, basically to the third world countries. And in the homeland, they will come up with a new product. And again, this cycle will go again, through the introduction and until the end, which is the decline. Then we have the national systems of this will discuss how the different countries and governments will approach and will react to the issue of innovation in their countries. The structures and institutions which encourage a country's innovation activities. They include the education and training, science and technology capabilities, industrial structure, science and technology, strengths and weaknesses, interactions with the innovation system. I will discuss this in the next slide, which is more clear because it's simply a diagram and we can just discuss the diagram. And enhancing the innovation capacity depends on interactions between academic community, business, and government. As you can see here, in the middle, we have the innovation capacity. So countries in terms of, let's say, innovation status, I mean, they are ranked differently. And the reason for this different levels is that there are different approaches in terms of these different factors which we will discuss. You see in the previous slide, what we said is that you have to enhance the link which is there between the academic community, which means the universities and academic institutions and the university graduates, and your industries. So this is something that we have a problem in the third world countries and Asian countries and countries which are least developing or even developing countries, because they still did not realize the importance of the link that must exist between universities and the industries. Because the university graduates, they are fresh people who are entering the job market with brilliant ideas, with innovations, with even inventions that sometimes they will not even be able to register them. Why? Because the governments don't support them. And where if you have this proper link, like this is something at least I know which exists in Iran. I mean, in Iran there are many university graduates which will come out from even the top universities, and these students, even at the time when they are a student and they're not even graduated yet, they come up with new inventions, inventions that can sometimes even change the world. And the government, they don't realize the importance of these inventions, and they just let it go. And other countries, they will come and headhunt them. So they will realize this, and they will basically attract these talents to their countries, and these inventions will be registered under the name of that specific country which is making this investment. And eventually, after a few years, you see a product that comes up to the market. And the funny thing is that one of the first countries who becomes customers to these products will be the same third world countries, and they will buy it at very high prices. Whereas if they would consider to attract these talents themselves and invest on them, they will be able to export it to those countries, not the other way around. So it's really important to have this link. And as you can see, this is only one of the factors that is contributing to a country and a government's innovation capacity. Other than university graduates, we have the technology and networking. So maybe you have the link, but the infrastructure, the technology does not exist. Like for example, you have talented students, but let's say, for example, in your specific country, you don't have internet connection, or you don't have electricity connection. So how can these people actually use this technology, and how can they come up with their new inventions when you as a government are not providing that required infrastructure for these talents to basically bloom and introduce their new inventions and innovations. The next thing will be industry collaboration. So sometimes even the collaboration between the industries can help a country to win the winning hand and get the upper hand. Sometimes the link must be between the two industries, and they can help each other, they can support each other. Like for example, let's think of Apple and Samsung. Apple and Samsung are two rivals, but the interesting thing is that Apple, until 2 years ago, I think, before they had this legal dispute in terms of copyright, I'm not sure about now, but until that time, I'm sure that the Apple was buying some of its chips for producing its product from Samsung, because Samsung is a producer of also different chips and displays and different even spare parts of these technological products. Although Apple was its rival, but still through the industry collaboration, they had a contract. and they were buying it from one another. So this shows the importance of industry collaboration. You have the government programs, which we discussed earlier. So do you as a government have the proper programs that will create the incentive and that will encourage the talent to come up with the new inventions or no? Are you providing them with facilities? Are you supporting them? Are you investing on these talents or no? The level of investment and the level of importance that you give to these people, it's considered as an investment. It's not a cost to the government, and eventually they will gain in the long run. And finally, you have the scientific research. So scientific research and the university graduates, since we discussed it more broadly, it's almost similar to the concept which we discussed, which was the link between the universities and the scientific research and the scientific centers with the industries. So this link is very important. Then we have the patents and intellectual property rights. The intellectual property is the property in intangible assets such as patents, copyrights, and trademarks. So in intangible assets such as softwares and books and writings and whatever, for this we have the intellectual patents, because they're intangible, they're not tangible. You cannot touch those. You cannot touch and basically sense those products. However, patentable inventions is when a new product or process which can be applied industrially need not be a totally new product, but a significant improvement on an existing product. Like for example, the Samsung, which we said, when the Samsung telephone introduced the telephone with a camera, it wasn't totally a new product. It was something with a significant improvement on an existing product. You have then the patent gives the owner an exclusive right for a limited period to exploit the product commercially. The key word here is the limited period. It's just a limited period that you have. Later on, after that time, your rivals may copy you and they may just come up with something new, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Or license someone else to produce it, or even you yourself, you can outsource it to someone else to do the production. Patents are the basis of much licensed technology, whereby the owner licenses the manufacturer to make the product. This is something which we have discussed in the session where we discussed like franchisers and production under license. This is almost similar to that. I mean, this is the same discussion. Patents are the basis, because producing under license, you will have to follow the same recipe. You will have to follow the same instructions that are given by the mother company. So it's like a licensed technology. You will have to follow only that specific instruction for, let's say, producing a specific product, or even providing some specific service. Patent rights in practice. Patent application, it depends on national patent system, and a long and expensive and a legal process, basically. Because having a proper patent application in terms of a country's legal system, it will provide an incentive to the person who's coming up with that innovation. They will feel that their production, their idea, and their innovation, it's insured and it's in a safe place and no one copies it, and they have the government protecting them. So if the government also invests in terms of their legal system, this itself can also encourage those talents to come up with their new inventions. And like you have the example here, the European Patent Office, it provides a route for the European patents. So this European Patent Office, this is only for Europe, but similar thing must exist in different regions or different countries. Then you have the Patent Cooperation Treaty, which covers 100 countries. So it's something like a UN. How you have the United Nations implying its uh, uh, its instructions on all its member countries. You have also the Patent Cooperation Treaty, which is like the World Trade Organization. All countries that are members of it, they must follow it, and they are protecting each other. So for some rules and regulations to become more effective, countries start to collaborate with one another. Like let's say in terms of drug trafficking or let's say different crimes, you have the international police or the Interpol, which, because if only one country is implying something, the victim can simply just escape from that country and just go to another country and just feel free there. However, if you have the same rules and regulations implied globally, that victim has nowhere to go because the same law exists in all countries. So it's really important that the patent is also implied by, as of now, it's 100 countries, but it will be best affected if all countries are members of it, and it will be implied in all countries equally. The U.S. Patent Office is the world's largest, seeing an increase in foreign applicants in recent years, which now outnumbers the U.S. residents' applications. So you can see that all the countries that have the best stand in the, as compared to other countries, they are the ones who have the best patent treaties, and they have the best patent offices and patent production. Where like U.S. saying that it has the largest, and then later on you have the European Patent Office. And at the same time, you can see that they have the best enhancement in terms of technology and economic improvement. The percent of applications from major countries, it's pretty much simple because it's just as per the different years in countries where they have the most patent productions. And as you can see, China is one of the least. Although China is the largest economy of the world, you can see that in terms of patent protection, it's not in a very good stand. And they don't have much patents registered in China. Whereas in Japan and US and Germany, which are the other basically large economies of the world, they have the highest number of patents as compared to the other countries. Then you have the concept of technology transfer, which usually it's towards the most, it's towards the developing countries and the least developed countries. The technology transfer is the process of acquiring the technology from another country. Key to industrial growth, where technology is transferred from more advanced economies to developing ones, which we just mentioned. There are four main channels. There are four main routes from which the technology is transferred. One of these is the which the spillover effect for host. Then you have the joint ventures and strategic alliances, which is the collaborative innovation. Then you have the technology licensing, which often in outsourcing operations, but there is the risk of leakage. And you have the and of course, this is the leakage of international patents, and the trade, which is embodied technologies and machineries and equipment, can lead to reverse engineering in the recipient country. Of course, the trade part, which is the last part, it may sometimes even be in a as a result of pressure or as a result of even illegal approach. Again, I can give you the example of Iran because I'm well aware of it in Iran. Iran, because of the sanctions, many of the technologies are not allowed to be exported to that country. However, as you can see, there are many of the, like in terms of, let's say, manufacturing automobiles or even aircraft or even helicopters and other things, they are doing the reverse engineering. So the product is being traded. I mean, they will buy a product like let's say, like 30 years ago when the sanctions was not there, they would they have purchased like let's say one Airbus aircraft. So as of now, they see that okay, the doors of trade of aircraft is closed to Iran as a result of this sanction. So what they do is that they will take Airbus out of the fleet, and they will start to do the reverse engineering so that they can manufacture this aircraft themselves, because they have no way of buying it from other countries. And this does not have to be this type of technology transfer does not have to be necessarily as a result of let's say sanctions or economic problems or problems in terms of collaborating with other countries. Sometimes it can also be as a result of a company's interest in terms of improving itself. Like, let's go with the same example which we discussed from the beginning of this class, with the Samsung and its camera option being added to its phone for the first time. So let's say, for example, the company of Nokia, which I believe that it was the second company which started to add the camera to its mobile phone. What they did was that they will buy a phone, like let's say from Samsung, and they will do the reverse engineering. Okay, how did these people add the camera to the phone? So then they will realize it, and they will make, of course, their own changes and their own modifications, so it will not be a copy, so they will have the copyright problem. Then they will put it into production. So it's somehow the same thing. As, it will be the reverse engineering as a result of trade. The other three top ones, which is the foreign direct investment, the joint ventures, and technology licensing, we already discussed that in the session which when we were talking about the foreign direct investment and the different ways that a company can go global. Like, they can either go as a result of foreign direct investment, or they can become a joint venture with a local company in the host company. And when they become a joint venture, eventually they will have to transfer some of their technology to that company. So it will be a way of transferring the technology. And also the technology licensing. Technology and globalization. Globalization of production has led to diffusion of technology, but absorption differs between countries. So of course, the technology, you can see, it's somehow mixed between all the countries. Like, sometimes you may not even find the origin of some specific technology. Why? Because all the countries are using it at the same time, and every country has its own contributions to it. Like, for example, let's say personal computers were first produced and invented by the United States. Then later on, after a few years, a country in Europe enhanced the computer system, like let's say in terms of its speed. Then later on in Asia, Japan enhanced it with some new technology. So it's like a diffusion, it's like a mixture, and everyone is somehow contributing to it. And of course, the absorption and the contribution, it differs between countries because each country has its own features and characteristics. Like a country like Japan, it's more likely for a country of Japan to contribute to a technology than compared to a country like say, for example, Zimbabwe, where like the literacy, the percentage of literacy is very low. Like, many people don't even know how to read and write. So it's very unlikely for a country like Zimbabwe to have any contribution towards technology. So that's how it differs between different countries. Countries that concentrate on low-cost, labor-intensive activities risk missing out on developing high-value industries. And it's true. Like take China as an example. Take India as an example. They are big economies, that's true. But how did they become big? One of their one of their competitive advantages over other countries were their population and their emphasis on low-cost labor and low-cost production. However, you don't see very much high-tech products coming out of India or China. In fact, many times when you go to buy some electronic products, if the person says, okay, this product is made in China, you are very much unlikely to, it's very unlikely for you to decide to buy that product when you know that that product is made in China. Of course, eventually everything is made in China or assembled in China. But if they will tell you that even the technology is from China, you're not very much eager to buy it. Whereas if they tell you it's made in Japan or it's made in Germany or made in US, you are more interested to go and buy the product. Governments can offer incentives and build supportive infrastructures, for example, the internet, which we discussed, to aid the firms and even the individual talents in moving to high technology sectors. So when it comes to the government and their responsibility towards technology and globalization, it's a must for the government to provide the necessary infrastructure for this growth to take place. Poor developing countries like Zimbabwe, which we gave the example, have the risk of falling behind in a digital divide between the rich and the poor countries. The percentage of internet users in each region. And if you just consider it, you can see that it's a very good example that we gave the example of internet. Because the countries, you can conclude from this diagram that in general, the countries, I'm not going to say this is 100% because we always have exceptions. If you remember, I said this. Nothing is 100%. But in general, we can conclude that the countries with the highest use of internet users and the best providers of internet, they are the best ones in terms of economy and in terms of innovations and inventions. So let's see. We have North America on top. Okay, it makes sense. Like let's say US is on the top. You have Australia and after that Europe, which again it makes sense. Then, which I said it's not everything is 100%. Like Asia is on the fifth here. However, like Japan can be on top of this list. But in general, Asia will fall in the fifth. Then you have the Middle East, and finally Africa, which Zimbabwe, which you give the example, is one of them. So you can see that a general conclusion can be made that almost countries with the highest number of internet users and countries that are providing internet more effectively, they're the ones who have the upper hand in terms of technology and introducing new technology. Then you have this diagram which shows the percentage of global internet use. Divisions are made as per the region, which is just for extra information. And finally, the conclusions. Technological innovation is linked to industrialization and economic development. The country will succeed, only a country will succeed that understands the importance of an effective link between universities and between technological innovation, between research centers, and the industry. And finally, they will have the economy developed, and they will have an enhancement in terms of their, like let's say, their domestic technology and domestic improvement. Every country has a national innovation system, which we discussed. It reflects its scientific and technological strengths. And of course, the amount of importance and the level of importance that the government gives to the scientific and technological strengths of its country. Because there are many countries that they have the proper scientific and technological strengths. The strength does exist, but the government does not support it. Either as a result of a poor government who doesn't have the money, or a corrupt government who doesn't want to invest in scientific and technological strengths. The level of patent activities in a country tends to reflect the depth of its scientific research activities. So a country like China, which we saw that it was the fourth as compared to the US, Japan, and Germany. Country like China, they have a lower level of patent activity. So hence, they have less depth in their scientific research activities. And we all know that China is the best economy because of its copying. So they don't have anything new. They don't have much scientific research. Most of it is just copying and doing the reverse engineering, which we discussed a few slides back. In many industries, innovation and growth are linked to new products and processes which are patentable. Historically, technology transfer has aided has aided the developing countries in acquiring new technology from the advanced economies. If you remember, we just said this about like a few minutes ago, which usually this transfer of technology takes place uh, from the advanced economies, from the developed economies, and from the technologically advanced economies towards the developing economies, towards the developing countries, like the Asia and Middle East. And finally, globalization of production has helped to diffuse technology. So the diffusion of technology can be considered as a good thing that has happened in terms of, to the world. However, poor developing countries have the risk of losing out. So basically, although they are using this technology, but at the same time, they are not using it for themselves. I mean, they are just users of it. They're not using it for as an infrastructure. They are just using it as end users. Like let's say the internet, like in Asia, for example, or in Middle East, many people just simply use the internet, like let's say on just normal things like checking emails and going to Facebook and Twitter. Whereas in the countries who are investing in this infrastructure and they understand the value of technology and enhancement and education, in those countries they are actually encouraging people to use the internet for research, for like let's say proper communication. So you can see that in both cases they are using the internet, they are using the same source. However, in one country they are using it for basically non-important issues and just for like let's say social activities, which is not really that important, and it doesn't give and it doesn't have any benefits to economy in a country. And in other countries, they are using it as an infrastructure for their advancement. So this was the conclusion of today's session. And as we discussed and mentioned, it was a short one because it was only 15 slides. However, I also told you guys in the last session about the exam. I have not yet prepared your questions. I will prepare the exam questions hopefully when I get back, because I'm on a trip right now. I will be back on Saturday, so hopefully by let's say Monday, I will email the questions to the university. You can check with them regarding the exam dates because I have no idea about the exam date myself. I will also check with them, and so they will have the questions and they will conduct the exam. In terms of what you have to study for the exam, please, I will email all the slides to you again, just to make sure that everyone has the slides. In case there is anyone who is not receiving my emails, please let me know. Maybe I don't have your email address, or there is a misspelling or something. I can fix that because I want to make sure that everyone is receiving the slides. And please study the slides very carefully. I don't want you to give me anything out of the slides. I don't want you to memorize anything. However, the concepts which I will be asking you, I want you to explain to me. And finally, the structure of the exam, you will have few multiple choice questions and true/false questions. You will have few short answer questions, which you can just simply write, like let's say 1 or 2 lines. And I will have to see. I want you to answer also some like long answers, like let's say 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs. So probably you will have 1 or 2 questions as a long question, which you will have to elaborate and explain. You can even come up with your own examples, but please try to emphasize more on what we have studied and what we covered during our classes. Okay, Ms. Lida, regarding your question, I just said the same things in the previous session, so you didn't miss anything. And also, plus you can see the YouTube video of the previous class. But this is all I can tell you about the exam, because I cannot, of course, tell you the exam questions. But as I said, be from your slides. And I will emphasize again, don't give yourself a hard time to memorize anything. I don't want you to memorize anything. However, I do want you to understand all the topics which we discussed, as you will have to explain them if I ask you any questions about them. No, actually the exam, it's individual. It's not in groups, and you will just have to give it. You will not have much time, so it's best for you to study well. So as soon as you can see the questions, you can simply just start writing. And regarding the percentage of the exam, this is something which I said in the previous session. 20% was regarding your project. Please don't ask me about your mark, because the marks will be out once you give the exam. However, I can assure you that everyone did from average towards good. So out of the 20 marks, I think the least was, I'm not sure, but I think the least mark was 13 or 13 and a half. So it wasn't really bad. So just try to concentrate on the remaining 80% and nothing to worry about. I didn't get the question. As I said, regarding exam dates, the university will let you know. They will inform you, because even I don't know when the exam is.